Here's video game sophistry. Your one-stop shop for video games, news, reviews.
Oh my god, he just ran in.
And time-wasting fun.
Every once in a while, gamers are graced with a decidedly different sort of experience from your standard run-and-gun fare. A throwback to one of the most popular games of all time, XCOM Enemy Unknown is that sort of game. I'm very fortunate today to talk to Garth DeAngelis, lead producer on XCOM. Thank you so much for taking the time. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you very much for having me.
What can you tell us about XCOM Enemy Unknown?
Well, as you mentioned, it's something a little bit different. You know, we're all huge gamers. We love all types of games, shooters, first-person shooters, and so forth. But we're excited about releasing something that feels and plays very different. The original XCOM, it's one of the most revered PC titles of all time. It was released in the early 90s. And we had the opportunity to reimagine it and bring it to the modern console generation as well as PC. And it's sort of this magical strategy action experience. It's unlike anything I've ever played in my 25 years of gaming, where you control this secret military organization against an alien invasion. That in and of itself doesn't sound too out of the norm for a normal video game, but the way that you play it is extremely unique, where you control this secret underground base and make these very high-level decisions, but at the same time you control the units in these individual combat zones, and you have intimate firefights with the aliens. So it's a pretty cool mix.
For those who love the original XCOM, what can they look forward to this time around?
Oh man, there's a lot. I mean, the stuff from the original, we jam-packed everything, almost everything that a hardcore fan could want. And it's tough because, you know, if you ask a fan, if you ask a dozen original XCOM fans, they all might have a different answer for what their favorite thing was, but we got almost everything in there. I mentioned the strategy layer where you can research items and manufacture weapons and armors and build your own jets to shoot down UFOs and expand your base to include all these different types of rooms that give you these different gameplay benefits. And then that's only half the game. That's the tip of the iceberg for half of the game. You then have the combat layer where you have the fog of war and you're not sure where the aliens are. You have fully destructible environments. We're modernizing but bringing back the classic aliens from the original XCOM. So we think fans will be happy.
Now, if someone's never heard of the original XCOM, why should they pick up the game this time around as well?
Well, you know, again, I think I think a lot of PC fans have heard of XCOM, even if they weren't a hardcore fan. But you know, if you own an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3, there truly is nothing out there like this game out on the market. And for me, taking off my development hat and just thinking like a gamer, that's what's very exciting, that there is nothing out there like it. I'm constantly looking for a new experience. And to be able to have this game that allows you to save the world, and there's big guns, there's aliens, which a lot of games have, but again, there's a richness to the gameplay that's very deep. And teaches you a new way to have fun, and that's what I'm most excited about.
That sounds a very new and innovative sort of way, but turn-based isometric play could be a big shocker for those who haven't experienced that style of gaming before. It's not something that is, like you said, common in a lot of games. Why make the choice now to bring it back? And from the development side, what were some of the possible concerns? Because it is a tried and tested, I would say, method of gaming that has worked so well for the tactical play, but you don't see it nowadays. So just, for your perspective on that.
No, you're absolutely right. You don't. You know, our studio, Firaxis Games, we make deep strategy titles. That's what we do. That's what we've done for over 15 years. We make the Civilization series and so forth. And XCOM, again, the original, it is a unique, very rich strategy title. And we thought it made sense for us to breathe new life into it. But you're right. There's not a lot of turn-based games that are made nowadays. But we're really excited about this one because we thought of the design holistically beyond just extremely hardcore PC. We wanted anyone to be able to play the game. And it doesn't mean the challenge is distilled, because the game XCOM's known for being brutally challenging, but we wanted it to anyone to be able to pick up a controller or a mouse and keyboard and enjoy the experience and understand the system. So we put a lot into the user interface and the design to make sure that was possible for gamers of all types. And the art team, we have a really deep aesthetic in this game, and there's different things done art-wise that you generally don't find in strategy titles, whether it's cinematic cameras that are pulled down into the battlefield, an over-the-shoulder shot camera that resembles, a third-person shooter, something that you would see out of an action game. There's these bits and pieces from more common genres in this game as well that again, we think can make the experience of playing a deep turn-based strategy game a little more fun because it has the flash and presentation of action games or a first-person shooter.
In terms, you touched on it a little bit there, some of the mechanics that you use to make it more accessible without underlying any of the initial challenge, any of the great stuff that XCOM originally represented. What are some other ways that you were able to do that?
Yeah. There were some core pillars that we didn't want to touch. And again, we did want to make it a bit more palatable with respect to having an extended tutorial so you can understand how to play the game, but we actually didn't distill the challenge down. And things like permanent death, which was in the original game, there's very severe consequences in the world of XCOM where you can lose your soldiers, and if they get killed by an alien, they're gone for good. So you might have spent a lot of time on this particular unit, and he's a badass sniper that has many, many kills and all these abilities, and he can be ripped away from you at any given moment. And that sort of stuff, it was a tough balance because we did not want to take that away. That's part of the magic of XCOM, that the player understands there are very dire consequences that they need to overcome. And then it makes the success of the game that much sweeter when they do overcome it. But at the same time, we didn't want it to be impossible. We do have an impossible mode, by the way, for the masochists out there that do want that sort of challenge. But in general, there's other mechanisms in place where you can revive soldiers if you have the appropriate medic and things like that. So it's not overly challenging.
XCOM's going to be available on the consoles and the PC. And unlike most other games, it's pretty much the same sort of game. From a development standpoint, what are the difficulties ensuring you have that tactical experience even without a mouse and a keyboard?
Yeah, without a mouse and keyboard. It's, when we kicked off the project, like I mentioned before, we realized we want this game to be on consoles as well. We want as many gamers to have it. So we had resources dedicated to looking, obviously focusing on the mouse and keyboard as well as the gamepad and the DualShock for the consoles at the same time. And we wanted to make sure that it felt organic, that it was easy to move your soldiers around, and the user interface teams did a fantastic job of that. I think if you once you give the game a go, it feels surprisingly at home on a console. It's easy to make your decisions and move your soldiers around, and we've seen a lot of that firsthand at trade shows where gamers that have never played a game like this before, they'll give the demo a go and they'll say, wow, that was surprisingly intuitive, and they look forward to more of it.
What are some of the game modes that we can look forward to in XCOM?
There is the core game mode, which is the campaign, and that is this very lengthy, highly replayable mode where the aliens are invading Earth, and it's your job to stop them. And every time you play that mode, it's I guess in the reality is it's only one mode, but I've beaten the game 4 or 5 times now, and it feels very, very different every time because this isn't the type of game where the aliens have this fixed invasion. They do something different every single time. They attack different cities every time you fire up a new game, so there's different maps. Their locations are entirely different. The tech tree that your scientists can research is very expansive, so you are very unlikely to see everything on a single playthrough. So the choices that you make really, really change how that campaign goes, the flow of the campaign. Then we also have a multiplayer mode where you can play 1 versus 1 against an opponent, and we wanted to enable the original player's fantasy of being able to control the aliens as well. So you can mix and match your human units and all their abilities and armors and weapons, but also put an alien on their squad, and you can put all different types of the dozens of aliens we have out there use them against your opponent, use their terrifying abilities. So it's a pretty fun strategic match.
In terms of the multiplayer experience, from what you described, it seems like these are going to be very lengthy and sort of tactical experiences. What can we players expect when they do play multiplayer in terms of the length and the depth? Will we see the same depth as we get in the campaign, and it will be the same sort of roughly length that you would experience in the campaign?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the multiplayer matches, they're individual matches. You can do ranked or unranked, and a match will last anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. But the depth within each match is extremely deep. It's arguably a little more deeper than just the combat of the single player mode, because you're playing against the mind of another human opponent. And obviously the mixing and matching of units is that doesn't stop. There's so many permutations of that it's impossible to see everything. So it's really, we've been playing it internally as developers for over 2 years now, and the strategies, somebody thinks they find the perfect strategy one week, and then a few days later somebody counters it, and there's sort of this myth that you can find the perfect strategy, the perfect unit to combo with another.
The Holy
unit.
Grail sort of thing, yeah.
The Holy Grail, but the Holy Grail doesn't exist, right? So it's constantly just this totem pole of I have the best strategy, and we've been doing that internally for a few years, and that's where the depth of multiplayer is going to come.
And fostering that massive amount of competition, right? Because it always is.
Right.
You can always be better. There never is a point where you've hit the ceiling, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it's also something very different. I don't know any multiplayer like this that's out there, and you get to use your mind a little bit more. You have the action and the fun of again bullets and aliens, but you really have to outthink your opponent. You have to be the better tactician. It's not about who has the better trigger finger or who has the who can spam the shoot button fastest. It's how do you outthink your opponent, which to me is very interesting.
Absolutely. One of the big things about all Civilization games is it's very difficult to put a completion time on any of your games, because it can range from someone who's not really getting into it just a few hours to someone who loses weeks at a time and doesn't realize what's happened around him because he's playing Civilization. Will XCOM be sort of similar to have that depth of people can really get into it and spend hundreds of hours, or just spend a little bit of time? Where does XCOM fall in that range of gameplay?
I think XCOM has a little bit. You're right, but I do think XCOM will have a little bit more of a clear spectrum of time. It won't be as open-ended as Civilization, because we do have an overarching narrative, and that narrative is driven by the player, and they can choose to speed through it faster than another player may. But there is a clear beginning and end to our game, and there's this clear goal that you are pursuing the entire time. I guess just to give you numbers, I mean, I've seen it range anywhere from 15 hours on normal difficulty to a little over 30 hours on classic difficulty. And again, that's just for one playthrough. I mean, after I beat the game on normal, I immediately bumped up to classic, and it was an entirely different experience, just because the choices, the web of choices you make change every time you play. So it'll be like Civ in the sense that you'll want to keep trying a new game and seeing what else happens. But because there's more of a story framework to it, it's a little bit more definable how long it is. What
is your favorite moment in the game? Always a difficult question, but one I gotta ask.
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, I'm a little strange. I create these internal stories, these internal narratives with my soldiers, because I rename them after people close to me, like my family and friends, and it's gut-wrenching when you lose somebody close to you. I remember a moment, it was very poignant, when I lost my mother to a Muton plasma outside of a UFO, and it was I don't know why I'm telling you this is my favorite moment, because I was sad, but it's my most memorable moment. Just that you in an odd way, you get attached to these soldiers. You spend so much time to them, and the player can project if they want it to be something more emotional, whether it's your family and friends, or something a little more daft, like celebrities or superstar athletes. You can save the world with whoever you want, and that's another component that changes the experience every time you play.
And there's other methods. I know there's like the Soldier Memorial Wall, where you see the people that you lost. So it even ties more into this sort of idea of personalizing these people that you've you worked on, you developed for many hours, right?
That's correct. Your Soldier Memorial Wall, the first time you play, you'll probably have to scroll with it a few times because casualties will pile up. But it's another cool thing about this game. I mean, you'll get better. You feel like you get smarter as you understand the alien tactics, and less soldiers will die on your next playthrough because you understand the game better. And but yeah, that memorial wall will get filled the first time you play.
Now, it's just a few days away. It's coming up really soon. Why come October 9th does everyone need to pick up a copy of XCOM?
Just because, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's a new experience, and we're so late into, I mean, this console life cycle. I think we're going over 7 years for the Xbox 360, and again, we love all types of games. We love action games. We love RPGs, but there's a lot of them out there. And for me, I'm always looking for that new experience as a gamer, something that no other game has provided for me. And playing through this game, yeah, I'm a little biased. I worked on it, but it's a brand new experience. I can guarantee gamers that. And so I think if they give it a shot, they'll see that. They haven't played anything like it before.
There you go. Pick it up because you haven't played anything like it before. It's available on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC come October 9th in Canada. Thanks again, Garth, for taking the time to talk. Just can't wait for it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Absolutely. I'm Andy Borkowski for Video Game Sophistry.
Head to www.puresophistry.com for more.